You know, we like to say one rule with Seattle Seahawks football: no normal games. This one relatively normal. A 10-point victory over the Carolina Panthers. Carolina 0-3. Doesn't matter. The quarterback, Andy Dalton, was under center in place of the injured Bryce Young for this one. Dalton put it in the air 58 times to the tune of 361. Did move the ball in certain spots, but it's Seattle coming away with a 10-point victory and getting back in that win column. And for more, we say hello to one of the great voices of the NFL on CBS, our guy Charles Davis. CD, it is always a pleasure, and really a pleasure to watch these Seattle Seahawks on this day as well. We've seen a couple different faces of the Seahawks through 3 weeks. What did they show you today here in week 3?
They showed me perseverance, Joe. They showed me the grit that Pete Carroll talks about all the time. You remember that great book by Angela Duckworth, and he invited her in to kind of the inner circle to talk to the team and kind of use that book as an example. They lost offensive linemen today. They lost defensive backs. They kept filling in, mixing and matching, and making it work. Carolina was more than game in this one now. It was grit versus grit. But at the end, home field advantage. Seattle's run game got going late. Yeah, it became advantage Seahawks, and this is a team that believes it's starting to come together, and they believe they're going to be a problem in the NFC West.
Certainly a fact on that side. On the Carolina side, maybe more of a question of objective coming out of this one, Charles, because Andy Dalton moved this offense. So maybe the question becomes, do we prioritize winning a couple more games than we would with Bryce Young and letting Andy Dalton run this thing for a little while longer, let Bryce get really right? Or do you go back to the top overall pick and get that learning curve flattened out here? What did you make of Dalton? And how does Carolina move forward?
I'll start with Andy Dalton, Joe. He was, to me, exceptional in this ballgame in so many ways because he was under siege. Seattle felt like the receivers couldn't really hurt them downfield, and for the most part, they did not. So they decided to bring extra pressure towards him. It felt like a game plan that you would use against a rookie like Bryce Young, but they used it against a veteran, hoping to speed up his process. But because he's a veteran, he hung in there. There was times he extended plays by exiting the pocket, maybe just some slide steps in and out of the pocket to create more openings, different arm slots, and worried through the football. And then sometimes he just stood in there and handled the heat and stepped forward and made the throw and took the hit. He put on a clinic for the youngster Bryce Young to watch and learn and grow from. But all in all, you're not going to prioritize, let's try and get a couple more wins with Andy Dalton and hurt the learning curve of Bryce Young. As soon as Bryce Young is cleared by the doctors, he will be the quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. He is their present, he is their future, and he has to go through some of these growing pains to learn how to be the quarterback they expect him to be down the road.
And we are rolling right along, 3 in the book already. We used to talk as week 4 is the end of the first quarter of the season. Isn't the mathematical case any longer, but broadly here, Charles, when you're talking about any team going into week 4, sort of turning one of these corners, what are you hoping to know about your team right now?
I think, Joe, what you're trying to find out now is exactly who you are. And I know that seems somewhat trite, but because we don't play people in the preseason, the first 3 or 4 games is kind of the shakedown of who you are and what you're going to be and what your identity is going to be. And I think that's what teams are trying to find out and locate now. A lot of teams this weekend are going to go home with question marks because they thought they were someone, and then today they got punched and we didn't expect it. We saw a number of upsets across the league. Dallas being a primary one, right? Losing at Arizona. Jacksonville losing at home to Houston. I could go on. But this is what teams have to discover. And now that we've gotten through 3, I think everybody's like, okay, that extended preseason's over. This is who we think we are. Let's go from there.
That's CD in 3D, the great Charles Davis joining us here on CBS Sports HQ. Charles, be well, my friend.
You too, Joe. Take care.
And don't forget, this season, it's all coming your way on CBS and streaming on Paramount+. Your team with ours. Here's a look at that slate that has come to pass. A big one as the Seattle Seahawks dominate that 4 p.m. slate with a 10-point win over Carolina.